My name is Ava Lennox, and I'm 32. The day split open at 12:41 p.m., somewhere between the second bite of a turkey sandwich and a blue-gray sky reflected in my phone. I wasn't looking for anything. That's the worst part, how betrayals prefer the casual scroll. I was idling on Facebook when a post slid into view, stamped with a cheap crown. King's Table, private men's group. Except it wasn't private anymore. The platform had eaten its own settings after an update, and the doors were swinging. Derek Hale, my boyfriend of 7 years, was congratulating himself in prose thick as syrup. Tomorrow's the big day. Finally leaving my loser girlfriend, Ava, for a real woman who knows how to treat a man. Kira makes triple what Ava does and actually knows what she's doing in bed. Can't wait to see Ava's face when I serve papers. Already moved half our savings to my personal account. She's too dumb to notice. LMAO. 7 years, and he measured me with a meme. My hands didn't shake. The calm was clinical, like I had stepped outside my own body to take notes. I screenshotted once, then again, because truth deserves backups. Names bloomed below the post, the kind of men who write in caps, the kind of men who call schemes alpha. Kira, I knew that name. Kira Garrison, Derek's ex, now married to Ben, who ran the neighborhood bakery with a laugh that carried flour in it. Ben lived on Facebook the way pigeons live in parks. Constant, harmless, until provoked. There is a fork in every story where you can wait for the house to burn or you can pull the alarm. I chose the alarm. I liked the post. Then I commented, "Congratulations on the pregnancy. Ben must be thrilled." Kira wasn't pregnant. I knew she'd been collecting sympathy lately with might-be language to explain mood swings. I also knew Ben saw everything. The comment was not truth. It was a flare. It said, "Look harder." The group detonated in minutes. "Bro, WTF?" from a stranger. "OMG, pregnant?" from a coworker. "This should be private, hun," from someone whose bio said healer. Then the one I wanted, Ben Garrison. "Kira, my wife Kira? This a different Kira, Derek?" At Kira Garrison. 20 minutes later, the post vanished. It didn't matter. Screenshots have longer half-lives than secrets. I'd already forwarded everything to Trev, my lawyer friend who uses commas like scalpel sutures. My phone started vibrating across the dashboard, Derek's name flashing with the urgency of a house alarm. I let it ring. Then came the texts. "Ava, what did you do? Delete that comment. Now this isn't what it looks like. Answer your phone, baby, please. It's not like that. We need to talk." He stacked words the way panicked people stack dishes, certain something won't topple if they just keep adding. I finished my sandwich, clocked back in, regrouted a shower niche while my life tried to call me from a different room. By 6, I pulled into my driveway. Derek's car hunched crooked like it had lost a fight with a curb. Inside, he was on the couch with his face scrubbed clean of dignity, a phone clutched like a lifeline. He stood when he saw me, smile already rehearsed. "Ava, baby," about the post. His voice split the difference between contrition and contempt. We were doing a joke thread, creative writing. It was stupid. I set my bag down carefully, the way you set evidence on a table. "Creative writing?" "Yes," he nodded too hard. "You know how guys are. It was just hype. The money? I was moving it for a surprise. For you." "The $8,000? I asked. "To your new personal account at a bank you never mentioned?" His face whitened, a tide retreating. "How did you—" "I check our accounts." I held his gaze. "Have been for weeks. Thought it was weird we kept having bank errors. Turns out you've been hemorrhaging honesty since May." He tried a sob. It sounded like an actor learning a role. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Kira means nothing." Ben called me. I watched the flinch skid across his cheek. He's seen some interesting texts since this afternoon. Apparently you keep trophies. He stopped crying. "He called you?" "People call the person who tells the truth." I let the sentence sit. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be getting papers this week." "You can't kick me out of my own house," he snapped, dropping the script. There it was, the entitlement, hot and familiar. "My house," I said, calm as rain, "inherited from my grandmother. Your name's not on the deed. You said adding it was unnecessary paperwork, remember?" He blinked as if the living room had tilted. "I'm your boyfriend. You can't just— What about my things?" "Pack what you need for a week. The rest you can schedule with my attorney to retrieve." "Where am I supposed to go?" He laughed, empty and ugly. "Ben's? Oh, wait." "Maybe your sister," I said. or a motel with plywood art. He tried every lever: tears, threats, nostalgia, the lazy tilt towards seduction like cheap perfume sprayed in a burning room. I didn't move. I scrolled through my phone twice, not to be cruel, but to practice being unbothered while someone threw stage props. Finally, he tossed clothes into a duffel, zippers angry. At the door he turned, eyes narrowed, into a promise. You're going to regret this. My lawyer will eat you alive. Bring a napkin, I said, and closed him on the other side. The house exhaled. It was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum and the tick of the thermostat. I sat at the kitchen table with Trev's number cued and the screenshots fanned like cards. The dusk spread itself along the baseboards, slow and blue. My hands finally shook, not from fear, from the realization that the version of myself who tolerated almost had no air left. A person can choke on almost. I made tea, wrote a list. What I choose to carry. Deed. Savings trail. Screenshots. Quiet. What I refuse. Their theater. His narrative. Any apology for locking my own door. The kettle clicked off with the small, satisfying finality of a gavel. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a doorbell camera blinked its red dot awake. I looked toward the front door and imagined its lens, patient, unblinking, keeping the kind of memory that can't be argued with. Okay, I told the empty room. We do this clean. I texted Trev. Send me your intake checklist. I'll start the binder tonight. Then I opened a new document and titled it what it was. Ava V. The Lie. Outside, the sky went from blue to iron. Inside, my house felt taller by an inch. By morning, the internet had done what it always does. Chewed and swallowed, then asked for seconds. I woke to a chorus of notifications, some shaped like concern, most shaped like bait. Derek's friends had migrated from their men's group to the public square, and suddenly my name was trending in a 3-zip code radius. The campaign launched at 8:12 a.m., a pastel carousel on Instagram titled Surviving Ava. Slides scrolled past in soft fonts over stock photos of foggy forests. Control, isolation, how some women weaponize money. Derek wasn't named, but he didn't need to be. The caption ended with a prayer hands emoji and the phrase, speaking my truth, which is what people write when they're about to dig a hole and call it a well. I didn't comment. Trev's first instruction had been simple: don't feed a fire you intend to put out with paper. Instead, I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Evidence. Inside, 01 screenshots, 02 bank transfers, 03 communications, 04 videos. I printed hard copies, slid them into sheet protectors, and snapped the binder rings closed. The sound was brisk, competent. It gave me spine. At 9:03, my boss, Randy, called. Ava, I just got a curious message, he said, voice cautious the way people sound when they're about to test a bridge. Someone claiming to be from the health department said you tested positive for several STDs and that I should consider a leave of absence while you, quote, inform your partners. The air went thin for a second. That's fabricated, I said evenly. I can provide recent results and get retested today. Randy made a dry noise. Yeah, the health department doesn't call employers about that. We remodel kitchens, not epidemics. I thought you should know someone's flinging mud. Thanks, I said, and when I hung up, I added 05 employment interference to the binder. By noon, the smear had accrued cousins. An email from a furniture store I'd never visited. Your credit application has been denied. Please contact. Another from a bank rejecting a new card I had requested. 06, identity, Attempts joined the book. I pulled my credit reports and confirmed what I'd prepared for weeks ago. A freeze on all 3 bureaus. The gates locked before he knew the road existed. At 2:21 a.m., I'd learn this later, someone tiptoed into my driveway and knelt by my truck. By 7:30 a.m., I found the aftermath. 4 tires sagging, rubber curled like dead leaves. I didn't cry. I set my phone on the hood, walked to Mrs. Patel's across the street, and rang her bell. She opened the door in her robe and fearsome rollers. Child, I saw a figure, she said, leading me to her foyer monitor. A perfect HD frame. Hoodie, knife, the quick, desperate slashes of a person who believes the night makes them mythic. The camera caught the face in a turn, brief, undeniable. Derek, time-stamped. I exhaled through my nose in a small, private miracle of gratitude for suburban paranoia. "May I have a copy?" I asked. She pressed a button. The footage hummed into the cloud. 04 videos fattened. "I didn't call the police yet." Trev's voice again. "Don't spread your cards on the felt until the dealer asks you to show." Derek texted mid-morning. "Saccharine overwrought. You started this. I didn't want to go public. Apologize and I'll shut it down." He followed with a selfie of a legal pad covered in bullet points, as if strategy becomes moral if you write it neatly. I replied once, "Please direct all communication to my attorney." Then I blocked his number and logged the attempt in 03/communications. The first real pivot came from Ben Garrison. He messaged from his bakery account at 12:38, grammar stripped of frosting. "Ava, I'm sorry. Saw your comment." Then Kira's messages. She denied, then admitted, emotional affair. I pulled phone backups. There are photos, receipts. If you need them for your case, they're yours. Also, if it helps, she posted in a parenting forum asking how to prepare kids for a blended family. Dated last month. Want screenshots? Want. I typed it, and within minutes, my inbox filled. Time-stamped texts, saved images, which I downloaded with a grim, detached mercy for my future self. A spreadsheet of Uber trips to a motel off the freeway. I dropped everything into 01 screenshots and 03/communications and wrote a neat label on a new divider. Garrison Materials. Kira, meanwhile, pivoted too. By late afternoon, she'd turned a might be into a baby registry, gender-neutral onesies, a crib that cost more than my first car. Her Instagram held a sonogram that Google would later tell me belonged to a 2017 mommy blog in Idaho. Sympathy bloomed around her like fungus after rain. Derek liked the post and commented 3 hearts. Sometimes you don't need to shout. You just need to pull a thread. At 5 on talk, I walked into an urgent care and requested a full STI panel. The nurse didn't blink. I left with a stamped form and a promise of results in the portal. The paper went into 05 Cien employment interference with a sticky note, prophylactic doc, counter false narrative. Back home, I closed the curtains and let the house become small on purpose. Quiet is a shape you make when the world is loud. The binder sat on the table with the density of a portable courthouse. I brewed tea and rehearsed the facts out loud until they sounded like someone else's blessings. Night came with footsteps. At 9:46 p.m., someone pounded my door hard enough to wake the thermostat. I didn't go near it. The doorbell cam recorded Diana Hale, Derek's mother, in pearls and fury. "Ava," she shouted at my porch light, "you will stop harassing my son. We're gathering affidavits. You are mentally unwell. We have friends on the board at the hospital. Don't test us." I let the camera drink it in. The audio was crisp. When she left, I uploaded the file to 04 videos and titled it Diana/Shed Threats Exterior/Audio MP4. Somewhere around 10, a new email slid into my inbox from a law firm I didn't recognize. Subject: Notice of defamation claim. The body was heavy on Latin and light on merit. Kira and Derek intended to sue Ben for emotional distress due to unauthorized sharing of private communications. I had to set my tea down to keep from laughing. I forwarded it to Ben with the subject line, "They've chosen slapstick, your move." He replied with a picture of a rolling pin and the words, "Countersuit dough is rising." That should have made me giddy. It made me tired. Fatigue is the body's version of do not engage. I listened. The next morning, the STD panel came back. Negative across the board. I printed, signed, dated. Randy filed it unread. "Told you I trusted you," he said, already onto a backsplash grout sample. I loved him a little for that. At lunch, my phone buzzed with a neighbor's text. "Saw Derek circling your block. Want me to call it in?" I replied, "No need yet. Thank you." Then I forwarded the message to Trev. He responded in under a minute. "Restraint now is leverage later. Keep stacking." By evening, the tide had begun to turn, quietly, the way tides do. On Kira's registry, anonymous comments appeared with links to reverse image search results for her sonogram. On Derek's Surviving Ava, a woman named Lydia asked why all 3 anonymous testimonials used the same punctuation. Ben posted a single screenshot to his page. Derek's brag about moving savings, captioned, "When do we stop calling theft love?" The share count climbed like a fire escape. I didn't dance. I labeled. 07 public reaction logs joined the binder, a chronology of strangers choosing oxygen over smoke. At night, the house settled into itself, each creak a small unspooling. I stood at the window and watched the porch light paint the walkway. Somewhere, Derek and Kira were crafting their next angle, making little theaters out of borrowed furniture. I had paper. I slid the final plastic sleeve over the last printout and closed the binder. It felt like finishing a wall. Nothing flashy, just brick laid on brick, patient as winter. "Okay," I said to the quiet, "we do this cleaner." The bird at the heart of an avalanche isn't loud, it just moves first. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for Derek and Kira's entire narrative to reach its logical endpoint, delusion. By then, their followers had split into factions. One half convinced I was some vengeful ex orchestrating an online smear campaign. The other half quietly realizing they'd been watching 2 con artists accidentally live stream their own downfall. The first real crack came from Kira herself. She went live on Facebook, one hand on her still flat stomach, voice tremoring just enough to sound coached. "I just want to clear the air," she said to a ring light's unholy glow. "This baby is real. Derek and I are in love, and Ava's trying to ruin something sacred. I hope everyone sends us prayers instead of judgment." I watched the clip muted while stirring sugar into my coffee. Trev texted 5 minutes later. "You seeing this circus?" "Yep. Brace yourself. They just tagged your employer. Already sent Randy screenshots. He says they're clowns, not clients. Good man." By that evening, Kira had a GoFundMe titled "A Safe Start for Baby Garrison Hale." It raised $1,200 in 24 hours, mostly from strangers who couldn't resist a redemption story. Derek, meanwhile, posted a soft-focus photo of him kissing her forehead with the caption, "You can't silence love." It would have been comical if it weren't so grotesque, because in those 24 hours, I'd been sitting on something they hadn't calculated for, something that would turn sympathy into suspicion faster than a candle under oil. The memory came like static at first. A doctor's office 3 years ago. Derek holding my hand while promising he didn't need children to feel complete. "You're enough," he'd said, smiling. He signed the consent form without hesitation. I remember the hum of the fluorescent lights, the framed poster about vasectomies being reversible in most cases. I still had the paperwork, scanned, dated, notarized. 08 medical records. I called Trev that afternoon. "Will it cross any legal lines if I post this?" I asked. He paused. "It's your medical record, your name on it. No HIPAA violation, no false claims. But Ava, make it surgical, no commentary, let it speak." Surgical I could do. At 7:04 p.m., I opened Facebook. My cursor hovered over the write something bar. Then I typed, "For everyone asking, no, I'm not bitter, just factual. Derek underwent a vasectomy in 2020 after we agreed we weren't having kids. Medical records available upon request. Congratulations to Kira and Derek on their miracle baby, though." That was it, 21 words. A line of emojis for punctuation. I hit post and set the phone down. The ripple was immediate. Within minutes, screenshots spread faster than any fire they'd lit before. Comments ranged from, "Wait, what?" to "vasectomy receipts?" to "Did they just immaculate conception themselves?" Someone found the exact sonogram Kira had stolen from Google. Another found Derek's LinkedIn, updated that morning to freelance marketing consultant, which everyone correctly translated as fired. By 10 p.m., Kira's GoFundMe had been reported for fraud so many times it disappeared. By midnight, Ben's Bakery Instagram posted a single photo of a loaf of bread scored with the word truth. The caption read, "It always rises." The next morning, Derek called from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. "Ava, please, you've made your point. You're ruining 2 lives. Kira's distraught. She hasn't eaten. Just stop, okay? We all made mistakes. No one needs to see the medical record. Take it down, and I'll..." Click. He still hadn't learned. You don't bargain after you've sold the moral inventory. Instead of replying, I emailed the voicemail to Trev and added it to 03i Communications. He responded instantly. "Keep stacking. We're almost done." The fallout was biblical. Kira deleted every social account within 48 hours. A thread on a gossip forum pieced together her lies like a true crime investigation. Someone found court filings showing Ben had already served her with separation papers. Screenshots of Derek's original loser girlfriend post resurfaced, stitched next to my vasectomy comment, captioned, "From fertility to futility." The story jumped to local news, one of those clickbait segments about digital revenge or digital justice. The thumbnail blurred our faces but left the words "miracle baby" intact. My phone buzzed all day. Messages from coworkers and distant cousins. Half of them horrified, half of them quietly impressed. I kept every response neutral, just glad the truth's out. But truth wasn't the reward. Silence was. The kind that follows when everyone finally stops debating what you already knew. That weekend, Ben invited me to the bakery after closing. "On the house," he said when I arrived, handing me a pastry box. Inside were 6 croissants shaped like hearts. "I don't know if it's solidarity or pity," he said, "but you deserve carbs." We sat on the counter, sugar dusting the tile. "You think they'll stop?" I asked. "They can't afford to continue," he said, wiping his hands. "Kira's family cut her off. Derek lost his job, and if they sue me again, my lawyer says we're countering for defamation and harassment this time." He smiled, small, tired, satisfied. "You're the calmest revenge story I've ever seen." "It's not revenge," I said quietly. "It's returning borrowed chaos." He nodded. "Still looks good on you." I laughed. It felt strange and light, like a sound that hadn't existed for months. By Monday, the tremors had stopped. Kira had vanished from the internet. Derek had gone underground too, though not before someone leaked a photo of him loading boxes into the trunk of a rusted Civic. Comments guessed he was moving back in with his mother. The air around me changed. For the first time in months, my phone sat silent for an entire morning. No new calls, no accusations, no alerts. Just the tick of my kitchen clock keeping time with my breathing. Trev called that afternoon. "The silence means it's done," he said. "They're broke, discredited, and out of moves. You don't need to fire another shot." "Good," I said. "I'm tired of aiming." He chuckled. "Then put the gun down, Ava. You already hit everything that mattered." That night I stood on my porch under a clean moon, looking at the faint reflection of myself in the door's glass. The version staring back didn't look vengeful. She looked unburdened. Inside, the binder sat on the table, thick and silent as a gravestone for lies. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Every page had already done its work. For the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming of notifications. When morning came, the light through the blinds looked new, honest, unfiltered, like the truth finally stopped needing to shout. When the legal dust settled, it wasn't dramatic. It was methodical. That's what true endings sound like. Not thunder, but paperwork. Trev called one morning, his tone almost cheerful. "You ready for your favorite word?" he asked. "What word?" "Closure." According to the final filings, Derek's defamation attempt collapsed faster than his credit score. The judge dismissed it with prejudice after reviewing the screenshots, the tire-slashing footage, and the fake health department call logs. Trev told me the courtroom was so quiet you could hear Kira's acrylic nails tapping on her phone as the verdict was read. She didn't look at Derek once, neither did I. The court ordered him to reimburse me $11,850, the exact sum he'd siphoned from our joint account, plus damages for the vandalism. Kira, it turned out, had wired him half that total from her baby fund before her GoFundMe was shut down. Together, they'd financed their own undoing. Trev framed it neatly. That's poetic restitution. By late spring, their world had shrunk. Derek was back at his mother's house in a town 2 hours away, freelancing on Craigslist, which I'm pretty sure meant changing oil in strangers' driveways. Occasionally, mutual friends sent me screenshots of his pity posts. Some people just love to play victim. Watch who you trust. I didn't respond. My silence had more weight than his words ever would. Kira, meanwhile, was radioactive. Her husband Ben finalized their divorce in record time and took everything that mattered. The house, custody, dignity. The local bakery thrived. She became a punchline whispered between cinnamon rolls. She tried one last bluff, suing Ben for emotional cruelty, but her own fabricated sonogram landed as Exhibit A. She withdrew the claim and disappeared into some multi-level marketing pyramid that promised healing oils and freedom. When Trev told me that part, I couldn't help smiling. Fitting, I said. She finally found her level. One afternoon, I came home to a plain envelope slid under my door. Inside was a cashier's check for $11,850, folded around a sticky note scrawled in Derek's handwriting. Just so you can't say I didn't pay you back. No apology, no return address, just debt, neutralized. I stood there for a moment reading the note under the light and realized something I hadn't expected. I didn't hate him. Not anymore. I didn't love him either. He was just a man who'd run out of mirrors. I slipped the check into my deposit envelope, the note into the shredder, and let both fates be equally practical. The house felt different now, lighter. Every room had once been wired with his noise. His podcasts, his footsteps, his half-finished promises. Now the quiet wasn't emptiness, it was mine. I repainted the hallway in a soft gray that looked like fresh paper. Replaced the bedroom curtains with ones that actually closed. I fixed the creaky step he'd always ignored. At night, I'd light a candle and let it burn until the wax stilled flat. I'd stand by the window and think about how chaos always disguises itself as urgency. Derek had been urgent from the start. When Trev's office released the final confirmation that my case was closed, I decided to use the only non-refundable thing left from my old life, the Bahamas trip Derek had booked as our anniversary surprise. I changed the second ticket to my brother Joel. When we landed, he raised a beer and said, "Too poetic timing." I laughed for real, the kind that doesn't echo back sadness. We spent 4 days eating grilled pineapple, snorkeling, and not checking social media. Somewhere between the turquoise waves and the silence, I stopped replaying the story in my head. It finally felt like something that had happened, not something that was happening. 2 months after I returned, Trev invited me to his firm's wrap-up dinner. That's where I met Asher, the forensic accountant who'd untangled Derek's hidden transfers. He was quieter than most men in suits, observant, careful with words, kind in a way that didn't feel performative. He said, "I have never seen someone document chaos so calmly. It's impressive." "Compulsive," I corrected. "Maybe both." We laughed, and for the first time in a year, it wasn't bitter laughter. It was human. We've been seeing each other since, slowly. No rush. He keeps a journal instead of social media, and I find that almost sacred. He says he likes the way I look at receipts as if they tell stories. I told him they do. He didn't argue. Sometimes I get emails from strangers, women who've read the court filings, heard pieces of the story through the gossip pipeline. They ask for advice. I always tell them 3 things. Document everything. Stay calm. Silence is scarier than rage. Let people reveal themselves. It's cheaper than investigation. It's not revenge, it's record-keeping with better lighting. Last week, Derek tried again. A new email under a fake name, claiming to be a friend, asking for a loan. The writing was his. Dramatic ellipses, self-pity posing as reflection. I didn't even forward it to Trev. I just deleted it. Some people never learn the value of quiet. This morning, sunlight spilled through the windows like a verdict. My house smelled of coffee and fresh paint. The binder still sits on the top shelf of the closet. Heavy, silent, untouched. I don't need to open it anymore. Justice doesn't always look like a courtroom victory. Sometimes it's an unlocked morning where nothing hurts and nobody's knocking. I poured myself another cup and smiled at the smallest of sounds, peace making itself at home. Because the truth, when you let it do its work, doesn't scream. It just stays.